The man in my family photos isn't a relative, he's a replacement. When I was a kid, my mom kept a heavy leather photo album on the coffee table. Thick black pages, plastic sleeves, Polaroids tucked between brittle corners. I used to flip through it when she was cooking or when I was supposed to be doing homework. Back then, I thought of it as proof that our family was normal. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, summer trips to the lake, mundane and ordinary, but comforting. I didn't notice him at first. Why would I? When you're 7 years old, you don't scan every photo like a detective. You look for your face, your siblings, the dog. But years later, when I was visiting home after college, I picked the book up again. Nostalgia, I guess. That's when I saw him. He's in every photo, not in a way that jumps out immediately. Sometimes he's in the background, leaning against a tree. Other times, he's at the edge of the frame, blurred by motion. Once, he's sitting 2 rows back at my 5th birthday party, in the McDonald's Play Place seating area, staring directly into the camera. The strange thing is, I didn't know him. My parents didn't know him. Nobody in the family knew him. I asked my mom, laughing at first, flipping the album around to show her. "Who's this guy? He's everywhere. Look, he's behind Aunt Claire in the Christmas photo. Then again at the lake, and here at the carnival." She took the book from me. Her fingers froze on the page. "That's just some stranger," she said finally, snapping the cover shut. "You know how people wander into pictures. He's probably just a coincidence." But her tone wasn't casual. She put the album back on the shelf and didn't let me look at it again that night. I couldn't stop thinking about it though. I lay in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling, trying to reconstruct the photos in my head. He wasn't family. He wasn't a friend. He didn't even seem to age. His hair was always the same length, the same style. His clothes never really changed. The more I thought about it, the more I realized he wasn't just in the background. He was looking, always at the camera, always at us. And now I can't shake the thought if he's in every picture, then he was there. At every moment, every holiday, every trip, every birthday. Standing close enough to be caught on film, which means he was always near us, watching. The next morning, I brought it up again. Over coffee, I said, "Mom, seriously, who was that guy in the photos?" He knew everyone else at those parties. The neighbors, family, friends. Why didn't anyone ever mention him? She didn't look at me. She stirred her cup with this slow, deliberate rhythm, like she was buying herself time. Finally, she said, "You're overthinking it. It's just someone passing through. People photobomb all the time." But her voice cracked when she said photobomb. I knew better than to push. My mom has that way of shutting a conversation down, pressing her lips together so tight you can hear the finality in it. Still, when she left for work, I went back to the bookshelf and pulled out the album. I sat cross-legged on the floor, turning pages carefully, like the paper might disintegrate in my hands. There he was, always there. Christmas '94 behind the tree, only half his face visible in the branches. Family reunion, '97, across the picnic field, sitting alone on a bench. My high school graduation dead center in the bleachers, eyes locked on the camera. It wasn't just that he was in the photos, it was that he didn't change. The same dark jacket, the same haircut, the same posture, straight-backed, hands clasped loosely in front. My uncle had gone from full head of hair to bald. My cousins had grown taller, acne giving way to clearer skin. Even the damn dog had aged. But not him. I tried to be logical. Maybe it was some old family friend, someone I just didn't remember. Maybe Mom was embarrassed, or there had been a falling out. That would explain the secrecy, the tone in her voice. But it didn't explain the lack of aging. I decided to test it. I pulled one of the Polaroids from its sleeve, my 7th birthday. I took a magnifying glass from the drawer and studied the man in the background. The resolution was grainy, colors faded, but his expression was clear, neutral, almost pleasant. His eyes, though his eyes seemed too sharp for the cheap film, I compared it to the photo from my high school graduation. Same eyes, same expression. The only thing that changed was how much closer he was. At the birthday, he was near the back wall of the play place. At graduation, he was right there in the middle of the crowd. Closer. That word stuck in my head all night. When I called my dad about it, hoping he'd laugh and give me some old forgotten story, he got quiet instead. Then he asked me to stop asking questions. His exact words were, "Don't dig into it. Let it go, for your own good." That's when I knew it wasn't a coincidence, and that's when I decided I had to know. So I scanned the photos, every single one that had him in it. Then I uploaded them to a facial recognition site, one of those free trial tools. I sat there, chewing my nails, watching the little spinning wheel as the site combed through public databases. When the results came back, it wasn't a name. It wasn't anything at all. Just an error message. Face not recognized. No matches found. I tried again with another site. Same result. And another. Same thing. It was like he didn't exist. But he does. Because when I closed my laptop, my reflection in the dark screen wasn't alone. For half a second, just over my shoulder, I swear I saw him standing there. After that incident, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt amplified, every shadow stretched too long. I ended up dragging the photo album upstairs to my old bedroom, setting it on the desk like it was some kind of evidence file. I told myself I was going to prove he wasn't what I thought, that there had to be some explanation. But the photos didn't stay the same. The first time I noticed, it was subtle. A snapshot from our trip to Niagara Falls, my dad holding me on his shoulders, water spraying in the background. I remembered that photo clearly because Dad had a goofy plastic poncho on. But now, the man was standing behind us. He wasn't in the original. I know he wasn't. He was closer than he'd ever been before, his face angled just enough that both of his eyes were visible. And this time, he was smiling. Not a friendly smile. More like someone holding back a secret. I flipped to another photo. My 8th grade science fair. The man had been in the back row before, blurry between parents. Now, his head tilted just slightly toward me, his mouth open like he'd just spoken. I felt sick. My palms started sweating, pages sticking as I turned faster and faster. Every picture had shifted, not in obvious ways, nothing dramatic, nothing that would scream altered. Just little things, a glance, a lean. The man's body turned ever so slightly toward me, like he was aware I was looking at him. I shut the book and shoved it under my bed, but that didn't help because the images were burned into my brain. I kept thinking about his eyes, sharp, too sharp, the way they seemed to cut through the blur of cheap cameras. That night, I dreamed I was flipping through the album again. But instead of birthdays or vacations, every page was a photo of me, right there in my room, taken from just outside the window. In every one, the man was closer, 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 until the last photo was nothing but his face. I woke up gasping, heart thudding like it wanted out of my chest. The album was back on my desk. I know I shoved it under the bed. I remember the scrape of cardboard against carpet. But there it was, sitting upright, open to the graduation photo. And this time, the man wasn't in the crowd. He was standing on stage, next to me. After that, I stopped pretending this was nostalgia. Something was wrong. Deeply, horribly wrong. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone. What could I even say? Hey, remember that stranger in every childhood memory we have? Well, he's moving closer now. Yeah, that'd go over well. Instead, I tried to ignore it. I shoved the album into the closet and stacked board games on top of it. Out of sight, out of mind. Except it wasn't. The man started showing up outside the photos. It began with the bathroom mirror. I'd just finished brushing my teeth when I saw him standing at the very edge of the reflection, where the doorway met the hall. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped the toothbrush. Nobody was there. The hallway was empty. When I looked back, so was the mirror. The next time, it was worse. I was in the kitchen late at night, drinking water. The window above the sink looked out into the backyard, dark, empty, nothing but trees. Except, not empty. A figure was standing at the tree line, perfectly still. I didn't need the details to know it was him. The posture was the same, straight-backed, hands folded, waiting. I backed away, heart hammering, telling myself it was just a trick of the dark, some shadow. But when I blinked, his head tilted slow, deliberate, like he knew I was watching. I yanked the curtains shut and didn't open them again. From then on, reflections betrayed me. Every dark screen, every pane of glass, I'd see him behind me, just far enough that I couldn't make out all the details. But I felt him. The weight of his gaze pressed down like a hand on my shoulder. I started covering mirrors. I unplugged the TV. I left the laptop lid closed. Still, I couldn't escape him, because he wasn't just showing up in the house anymore. He was interacting with the album. One night, I heard rustling from the closet, soft, like pages turning. I froze in bed, every muscle locking. The sound went on for a minute, then stopped. When I finally forced myself to look, the closet door was cracked open. The board games I'd stacked on top of the album were scattered across the floor. And the album itself was lying open, pages fluttering as if from a breeze. I crept closer, every instinct screaming to stop, and I saw what page it had landed on. Not a childhood memory, not a holiday. It was a photo I'd never seen before. Me, sitting in my bed, now. And in the bottom corner of the frame, half in shadow, the man was standing inside my room. I couldn't take it anymore. The album, the photos changing, the man pressing into my house, none of it made sense. There had to be an explanation, some missing piece. So I confronted my mom. She was in the living room, folding laundry, when I dropped the album on the coffee table. The thud made her flinch. She looked at it like I'd just set down a dead animal. "Tell me who he is," I demanded. My voice shook, but I didn't care. "The man. He's in every picture. And don't tell me it's coincidence, because he's in ones that didn't even exist before." Her hands tightened on a towel until her knuckles went white. She didn't answer. "Mom," I pressed. "Please, just tell me the truth." Finally, she set the towel down and sank onto the couch. For the first time in my life, she looked old, tired, like she'd been holding something in for decades and it had finally rotted her from the inside. "I hoped you wouldn't notice," she whispered. "We all hoped." My skin went cold. "We?" She nodded slowly. "Your grandmother, your uncle, your father, and me. We never talk about him. That's the rule. You don't say his name. You don't point him out. You don't acknowledge him. Because if you do, he notices you back." Her eyes glistened. She looked at me the way someone looks at a terminal patient, grief already there. "Why is he in our pictures?" I asked. Mom shook her head. "He's always been in our family. Always. As far back as the albums go. Every generation, he's there. Weddings, funerals, baptisms. Sometimes he's just a blur. Sometimes he's closer." She covered her mouth like she regretted saying that much. I leaned forward. "What does he regretted saying that much?" Her hand dropped into her lap. She didn't answer. "Mom." My voice cracked. "What does he want?" She whispered it so faintly I almost didn't hear. "He chooses." I felt sick. "Chooses what?" Her eyes darted to the album. Who stays? Who doesn't? My stomach turned. Suddenly, pieces clicked together that I'd never questioned before. My cousin Danny, who disappeared when I was 10. The way relatives never talked about him. The empty chair at holidays nobody mentioned. I remembered once, when I was little, asking about him. My grandma had snapped, "We don't talk about Danny." I'd thought it was grief. But now I wondered if it was fear. Because when I flipped to the family reunion photo, the one where we'd all gathered at the park, I noticed something I hadn't before. Danny was in that photo, smiling, holding a frisbee. But in the copy I held now, he wasn't. The man was standing in his place. I couldn't breathe. Danny wasn't in the photo anymore. Just gone, erased like he'd never existed. And the man standing where he'd been looked sharper than ever, clearer than anyone else in the picture. I slammed the album shut and backed away. "Mom, we can't just ignore this. He's here. He's here." She wouldn't look at me. "The more you fight, the faster it happens. You've already seen too much." "What happens?" Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." That's when I heard it. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." That's when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of a camera shutter, faint, coming from somewhere inside the house. I froze. Did you hear that? Mom's face crumpled. He's already chosen. I spun toward the sound. The hallway was empty, shadows stretching long. My pulse roared in my ears as I crept toward my bedroom. The album was waiting for me on the desk. Open. Pages fluttering, though there was no breeze. Another click. I looked down. There, on the fresh page, was a new Polaroid. Still developing, the chemical haze fading into an image me, standing in the hallway, right now. Behind me, in the photo, the man was closer than ever, not blurred, not distant. His hand was outstretched, almost touching my shoulder. Click. Another Polaroid slid onto the page by itself. This one showed me staring at the photo I was holding, my own face pale, horrified, and behind me, no longer reaching, he was gripping my shoulder. I dropped the book and stumbled back, heart slamming against my ribs. The lights flickered, and then the mirror across the room began to ripple, not like glass breaking like water, like something was pressing through. A hand emerged first, pale, thin, fingers too long. They pressed against the glass, then curled around the frame. I couldn't move. My legs locked as his face pushed forward, stretching the surface until it tore open with a sound like wet fabric ripping. He stepped through. He was exactly as he appeared in every photo: dark jacket, neat hair, expression calm. Only now he was inches away. Why? I choked out. My voice sounded tiny, useless. He tilted his head, studying me with those sharp, unblinking eyes. And then slowly, deliberately, he raised the old camera hanging from his neck. Click. The flash blinded me. For a second, I saw nothing. Just white. When my vision cleared, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was in the photo album. I could see my mom, standing over the book, crying. I could see my own face, frozen mid-scream, trapped behind the glossy surface. And behind me, already stepping into the frame, was the man. Closer. Always getting closer.